The Collective Advantage: How Black Women Entrepreneurs Are Rewriting the Rules of Success. Good morning, everyone. I'm truly honored to stand before you today to share revelations that have fundamentally shifted my understanding of entrepreneurship, power, and collective transformation. These insights come from my recent profound conversation with Teasley, a visionary researcher, thought leader, and champion for Black women entrepreneurs whose work isn't just documenting reality, but actively reshaping it. Tia Teasley isn't merely studying entrepreneurship, she's redefining it. Through rigorous research and deep community engagement, she has uncovered patterns that challenge everything we thought we knew about success, especially for those who have been systematically excluded from traditional power structures. Her groundbreaking work is creating ripples that will soon become waves across the entire business landscape. For generations, we've been fed a particular narrative about entrepreneurship. You know the one: the solitary genius working tirelessly in a garage, the maverick who bucks the system, the exceptional individual who, through sheer force of will, creates something revolutionary. We've mythologized this story, we've enshrined it in our business schools, we've celebrated it in our media, and it's a lie. Or rather, it's a dangerous half truth that has blinded us to how sustainable success actually happens, especially for communities that have faced historic and systemic barriers. Let me ask you something. What if the very obstacles that we assume hold people back are actually catalyzing something revolutionary? What if the communities we've labeled as disadvantaged are actually pioneering the most advanced, sustainable models of entrepreneurship on the planet? This is the earth shattering insight that emerged from my conversation with Tia Teasley. The data she shared left me speechless. Black women owned businesses have seen average revenues increase by 32.7% in recent years, outpacing every other demographic group. Let that sink in. The very group facing the most significant barriers: limited access to capital, systemic bias, fewer established networks, is showing the most impressive growth. How is this possible? The answer lies in what I'm calling the collective advantage, a fundamentally different approach to entrepreneurship that turns conventional wisdom on its head. While traditional entrepreneurship glorifies individual achievement, Black women entrepreneurs are pioneering models based on mutual support, resource sharing, and community uplift. They're not just building businesses, they're building entire ecosystems. Consider what happened at the Women's Business Enterprise National Council Conference in New Orleans this year. Thousands of women owned businesses gathered, but with a focus that would surprise most traditional business strategists. Instead of competitive positioning or individual achievement, the conference centered on creating systemic change through collective action. The challenges were clear and documented. Female founders receive only 45% of requested loan amounts compared to their male counterparts. Women remain dramatically underrepresented in high growth sectors. These aren't new problems, but the response was revolutionary. Instead of competing against each other for limited resources, these entrepreneurs, many of them Black women, focused on creating mentorship networks, building collaborative infrastructure for easier access to capital, and forming strategic partnerships across industries. One attendee told Tia, "I used to think success meant getting mine. Now I understand success means creating conditions where we all thrive." The results speak volumes. From 2019 to 2023, woman owned firms grew by nearly double compared to male owned businesses. Employment in woman led firms increased by an astonishing 252%. And Black woman led companies saw those revenue gains of 32.7% I mentioned earlier. This isn't incremental improvement, this is transformation at scale. But the evidence doesn't stop there. Let me tell you about Gray's Upgrade Her initiative, which exemplifies this new paradigm in action. Gray, a global banking platform, launched a program awarding $9,500 grants globally, with special attention to African diaspora founders, including Nigerian recipients. The challenges these entrepreneurs faced were significant: limited financial inclusion beyond traditional markets, and difficulty scaling impact due to cross border payment issues. Gray's approach wasn't just to provide funding, they created an equity free grant program providing resources without debt burden, coupled with tailored support for scaling internationally via digital banking solutions. The demand was overwhelming, nearly 2,000 applications worldwide. But what happened next reveals the power of the collective advantage. The winners didn't just take their grants and go their separate ways. They formed networks, shared resources, and created collaborative partnerships that amplified their individual impacts. As one recipient told Tia, the money helped, but the community changed everything. I now have partners in 3 countries who I can call at 2 a.m. when I'm stuck on a problem. This is the collective advantage in action. And it's not just about feeling good, it's about delivering extraordinary results. According to data from Fundera by NerdWallet, cited in Success Magazine, startups led by women, including many prominent Black female founders, consistently outperform male led startups in terms of return on investment. This is partly due to greater team diversity and innovative approaches to problem solving that emerge from collaborative leadership models. The challenges remain significant. Entrenched gender norms limit leadership opportunities. Venture capital funding gaps persist, with only about 2% going toward all female teams. But the response has been remarkable. Women entrepreneurs, particularly Black women, are leveraging social media and e commerce tools to bypass traditional gatekeepers. They're cultivating diverse teams that drive creativity and innovation. They're seeking out investors and funders aligned with their values and goals. And they're succeeding not despite the barriers they face, but in some ways because of how they've responded to those barriers. They've had to innovate, they've had to collaborate, they've had to build systems and structures that support not just their individual businesses, but entire communities of entrepreneurs. This represents a profound paradigm shift. For centuries, Western capitalism has operated under a particular assumption about success: that it is fundamentally individual, that we succeed or fail based primarily on our own merits, efforts, and abilities. This belief is deeply embedded in our culture. It shapes our educational systems, our workplace policies, our economic structures. It influences how we allocate resources, how we measure progress, how we define achievement. But what if this core assumption is fundamentally flawed? What if the most sustainable, impactful success isn't individual at all, but collective? This is the revolutionary insight that emerges from Teasley's research. Black women entrepreneurs have discovered, out of necessity and wisdom, that the path to lasting success isn't climbing over others to reach the top. It's building a broader staircase that everyone can ascend together. And here's where it gets truly disruptive. This approach isn't just working for Black women entrepreneurs. It represents the future of entrepreneurship for all of us. In a world facing unprecedented challenges, climate change, social division, economic inequality, the old model of individual achievement at all costs is not just outdated, it's dangerous. We need collaborative approaches that build resilience, share resources, and create sustainable value for communities, not just shareholders. Black women entrepreneurs aren't just succeeding within the current system, they're pioneering the systems that will define our future. But here's the challenge: our institutions aren't built to support this approach. Our funding mechanisms, our business education, our networking structures, they're all designed around the individual entrepreneur model. This creates a profound disconnect. The very approaches that are proving most effective for Black women entrepreneurs and potentially for all entrepreneurs are the ones least supported by our existing systems. This isn't just a problem for Black women entrepreneurs, it's a problem for all of us. We're missing out on extraordinary innovation, economic growth, and community development because our systems aren't aligned with what actually works. So, what do we do about this? First, we need to recognize and celebrate these collective approaches to entrepreneurship. We need to tell these stories, share these models, highlight these successes. This isn't just about representation, though that matters enormously. It's about illuminating pathways that work. Second, we need to fundamentally rethink our support systems. We need funding mechanisms that recognize and value collective approaches, educational programs that teach collaboration alongside competition, networking structures that facilitate ecosystem building, not just individual connections. Third, and perhaps most challenging, we need to examine our own deeply held beliefs about success. The lone genius entrepreneur makes for a compelling story, but it's rarely the whole truth. Behind most successful ventures is a network, a community, an ecosystem of support. This brings me to my challenge for you today. How will you embrace the collective advantage in your own work? Will you continue to pursue success as a solitary endeavor, or will you begin to build the networks, communities, and ecosystems that can transform not just your prospects, but those of everyone around you? Because here's what Black women entrepreneurs have shown us: when we shift from individual achievement to collective advancement, we don't just succeed, we transform. We don't just build businesses, we build communities. We don't just create products, we create possibilities. The future of entrepreneurship, indeed, the future of our economy, depends not on how well we can compete against each other, but on how effectively we can collaborate with each other. Not on how high we can climb individually, but on how many we can lift collectively. This is the revolutionary power of the collective advantage. And thanks to the groundbreaking work of visionaries like Teasley and the pioneering efforts of Black women and entrepreneurs across the country, it's not just a theory or a hope, it's a proven path forward. The question is not whether this approach works. The data is clear. The question is whether we have the courage to embrace it, to redesign our systems around it, and to build a future where success is measured not by who gets ahead, but by how many we bring along. Thank you